Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Everquest Old School. And on this episode, we're actually hunting over at the camp in Eastern Commons, but it's the second ore camp closest to the zone. Sorry, my sound's messing up here. There you go. And we have somebody here power leveling us, basically. He's power leveling somebody else, and I just happened to join. It's this guy right here who's power leveling us, and it's this guy right here that I joined. Vars is his name. He's yellow to me, so that means he's either level 9 or level 10, somewhere around that range. Now we're doing pretty good here. The pulls aren't too quick, but the camp itself is pretty nice because it's all red. And I'll show you what experience I have right now, how close I am to level 9. And hopefully we'll go ahead and get level 9 today, if we can manage it. That was just a pawn. So it's a little slow, like I said, but it's better than hunting by ourselves. You know, soloing is nice sometimes, but it can be pretty much, you know, a killer other days where it's just so slow to get any kills, and then the danger of something going wrong. I mean, this game works off of the premise that your character doesn't leave the server right away. So if you're there and you go link dead or you start to lose your connection a little bit, your guy continues to fight on and will continue to die if you don't come back and do what you need to do before that happens. So that can be very, very hard to deal with, you know, by yourself. If you're in a group, it's a little bit more forgiving because you got other people there to take care of you. And I've been in countless groups where somebody's not responding, or their character looks like it's running into a wall. You know they're going link dead. You know, you've had that happen to you. Sometimes they come back from it, sometimes they don't. But in this game, unlike in Everquest 2, if they're going link dead, you can still heal them. You can still heal their character, you can still buff them up, they can still hurt the mob, and so therefore you can save their life. They come back, and their life will go down, back up, down, back up. Basically, their computer is catching up with what actually happened and why they were gone. And so they can see that they almost died and came back and all this other stuff. So it's very trippy in that sense, but it's also a nice little backup, basically, to be in a group. Now, sometimes even going link dead, the group just can't save you because your character decides to run off down the hall and die somewhere. And usually in those circumstances, not all the time, but usually your character will die by itself. He'll run off into someplace weird, get killed, and the mobs won't follow the aggro back to the group. Sometimes, however, they will, and so that really sucks when something like that happens. It usually only happens with the pooler because he's the only one really running around all the time. Everybody else is pretty much sitting still, kind of like we are right now. And so if they go link dead, they're not moving. So it's not really a big issue for that. And if it's the pooler, that really sucks because if he runs off someplace weird, it's kind of hard for the rest of the group to get any experience on that one. This guy killed it. I guess he was trying to help us out and take some of the life down. He ended up killing it in one hit. But yeah, if your pooler dies in a weird spot, it can be kind of difficult if the wave starts to pop before people can drag his body back. Because you got to remember, now that your pooler's dead, usually your pooler is your tank. You won't have anybody to tank the creature. Now, other classes can tank somewhat decently, like bards can tank. You know, monks can kind of tank a little bit. They're not exactly made for it. They're pretty good. You know, they're better than a lot of the other classes, but so to get the experience, you need to do more damage than anyone else. Okay. Wait for it to get here. Let him build us some aggro, then send my pet in. I'll turn my taunt off. That way he doesn't try to steal the aggro from him. That's a good thing to do as a Necro anyways. If you're in a group, just turn that off. Chances are he's not going to be the main tank. But like I was saying, in a pinch like where the tank dies, you could technically use your Necro pet. I've found, you know, as far as pets go, the Necro pet can take its own or hold its own against some of these guys, but the Mage pet, the one that roots, the Earth one, seems to be really, really good for that. You know, it not only roots them in place, so if anything happens, such as the pet dies, you have a leeway, a little time window right there to recast another pet if you have the power. Whereas if the Necro pet dies, really the only thing the Necro has to do to try to, you know, give himself some leeway is fatigue death. But it doesn't allow him to cast another pet and continue the fight. Just basically ends the fight. He survives, but nothing really bad happens, you know. So it's a little different with each class. You got to really figure out what kind of style you prefer to play. Necros, like I mentioned earlier in some of my videos, is that they can actually help pull. They're actually good at chain pulling because they can fatigue death. So if you don't have 2 Shadow Knights or a Monk and a Shadow Knight, you can use... Let's see what he's doing. We got 2 people pulling now. So you can use a Necro to do it as well. Now he can't take the hit, so he needs to have some kind of speed on to make sure that he can get away fast enough without taking any of the hits, especially if he's pulling like a room. That could be very dangerous for a caster because they get stunned very easily, they get hit very hard. It's just a 51%. He's telling him how much experience he has. But if done right, a Necro can be pretty cool because you can send your pet in, the pet can die, and therefore you still have the aggro, and now those creatures are coming for you. Now, the pet actually has a range at which you can send him in. But if the pet's going to last a few seconds, you can send the pet in and then start hauling butt back to wherever your group is, or wherever the point where you need to fatigue death should be, and then sit there and wait. And then feel free to loot. Okay, thank you. It's this and that gives you some time to prepare. You know, you can really sit there, watch them coming from a distance. If it's an open area, if it's around a corner, you might have a little difficulty, you know, seeing them come, but at least you're not getting hit the whole way there, and then you can just, you know, click your fatigue death, hope it takes, because it doesn't always, hope it takes, and if it doesn't, if you cast it soon enough, you can see them still running towards you. You can stand up real quick, cast it again, fall down, and usually 1 or 2 casts will be enough for a Necro. Shadow Knights usually fail a little bit more than that, so let's go ahead and loot up. Loot this one. I normally am not a big looter, especially as a caster. You kind of want to sit in the back, but he mentioned it, and I want to get rid of all the bodies so that it just doesn't clutter up everything. In fact, I'll put on my my inventory window so you guys can see just how much experience I'm getting per kill at level 8, fighting red creatures over here at Orc Camp 2. See right there, that one's actually yellow. Killed that one pretty easy. But yeah, my experience, the Shadow Knight fatigue death is probably around 3rd place for the classes who have it. Necros would be in the 2nd place, and then Monks would be 1st. I've almost never seen a Monk fail his fatigue death, and even if he does, he gets it back almost instantly, so he can cast it again. Whereas the Shadow Knights, I don't remember exactly how long it was. It's a few seconds before it repops, and it does use power. So if you're out of mana, you can't cast it, which kind of sucks. It also means that you have to sit there or lay there and get hit while you wait for your spell to repop so you can cast it again. And then even once you're ready to cast it, like I said before, it is a spell, so you do have to cast it, which means you can get interrupted if you're not, you know, against a wall or something like that. So you actually have to turn around, face the creature so you're not getting hit in the back, cast the spell, and hope for the best yet again. And I've done it several times as my Shadow Knight back in the day, where I would cast it like 4 or 5 times, which is a lot considering you're getting hit the whole time. And usually you can only cast it once, maybe twice, if you're pulling a large pool. And I've had it fail 4 or 5 times in a row. I got experience for that one. Guess we didn't hit it in time. So not completely, you know, user-proof. You are going to run into issues with it, but that kind of adds some fun to it. It kind of adds that that mystery. Will it take this time? Will it not? Because it's not supposed to be used really as a constant thing, like a tool to be used all the time. It's one of those things that you do for really, really hard pulls, or for emergency situations. So it's kind of cool that if it's an emergency situation and you use it, there's a chance that it's not going to work. It's not a surefire proof way to get out of danger. Because if it was, that would kind of be a cheat to the point where I wouldn't exactly like it that much, because then you really would never get into any danger. You would be basically invulnerable. You could just go off and get into as much trouble as you want, fatigue death, and you were safe, stand back up, and everybody else would die. It would give you guys just too much of a safety net, in my opinion. So with that little hint that it could fail, I like that actually. But I kind of wish for the Shadow Knights they would up it a little bit so it wouldn't fail as much. You know, I do understand that they're a half tank, half necro, but still, I mean, it's a little uneven on that regard, especially when you look at monks, as I said before. They never fail, and it's crazy. You know, you should have a little bit more of that, and a little bit less of, oh, you're almost guaranteed gonna die, but you might have like a 1% chance that you're gonna survive with it. You know, it's obviously, I'm exaggerating on that one. It's probably more like I don't know, 30 or 35% of the time that it works, and the rest it doesn't. And there's a few things you can do that you learn later on that can tweak it so that it works more often. Like one thing I've found, and it may just be my imagination, I don't know, you guys will have to tell me what you think, but one thing I found with my Shadow Knight is if I'm running away from an enemy and then I fatigue death, and I was pushing the button to run the whole time and I didn't allow my guy to stop completely, the spell would either be interrupted because you're still moving slightly when you started casting it, or it would go off but it wouldn't take effect, which kind of sucks. So I found that you give it a second or two after you... oh, we got another person here. I might be able to have room for him. He's blue, depending on what level the other guy is. More the merrier for me, I don't mind. Let's see what they're going to do with this guy first, and then I'll finish my thought. Oh, there we go, we got him. So yeah, if you come to a complete stop and then you wait like a second and a half to actually cast the spell, it seems to take a lot more often than if you're trying to run from the enemy and you realize that you're not going to get away in time, or you get slowed or something like that from running away, and you're like, oh, this is just going to end badly, and then you try to fatigue death. It doesn't seem to work very well at that time as well. I haven't really seen any difference whatsoever if you're poisoned or diseased. That seems to work fine. The only downside to that is usually if you're going to use fatigue death, you've been getting hit, so your health is already pretty low. And then if you're diseased or poisoned, I have had it where I survived the fight, but then die from the disease because you're just laying there, and it's taking off so much of your life, and you can't heal yourself, you can't do bandages, you can't do anything because you're laying on the floor, waiting for the creatures to pay back. And they don't always pay back together. Sometimes you'll have a group of, say 10 or 15 creatures, all standing right on top of your corpse. What's up, option? Snag gems. I don't even even see snug gems anyway. Oh, there he is. So they'll all be standing on top of your corpse, and one or two of them will decide, oh, I guess I'm tired of waiting here. I'm going to go back to where I spawned. And they'll trail off and start walking back really, really slow because they always walk and not run if they're not chasing anybody. So they'll start walking back, but the other ones will stand there and be like, well, you know, this is as good a spot as any for a while. And it may take, you know, 30, 40 seconds for them to all leave and start paving back. And the whole time you're taking hits from that poison. So you got to keep that in mind. If you do get poisoned, you may die anyway. So just, you know, kind of tweak your run to that regard. You also want to make sure that you're very familiar with the zone. As a caster for Necro, you may not be familiar with rooms, you may not be familiar with roamers or the pathing of creatures. You kind of want to make sure that you keep an eye out for that when the tank is pulling and see where things spawn and where they don't. How big the aggro radius. That's another key thing. The aggro radius can change in different zones. Sometimes it's very, very, very small. You can run almost right up to the creature and he won't attack. Other times, the aggro radius actually goes through walls, and if you're in a room like adjacent to another one and you get real close to the wall, the creatures on the other side of the wall will all aggro into that room. Probably not exactly how they intended it to be when they designed that room, but it is a kink that you need to be aware of when you're in those areas, that is going to happen. So the reason you need to be aware of that is because when you fatigue death, eventually you have to stand up again. And when you stand up, if there's any creatures nearby, they will aggro you. So picking the spot to fatigue death is almost as important, or it is as important, I should say, as pretty much any other deciding factor. Because if you fatigue death and it goes off and you survive, and you did it in just a horrible spot, it really doesn't matter if everything else was right, because the moment you get up, you're going to die. And in case you're thinking that, oh, I'll just lay there until my life is full, my power is full, it doesn't quite work that way. If I remember right, your power and health really do not go up when you're fatigued death. If they do, it's so slow. It's not like sitting down, that you're going to be laying there for probably hours waiting for that to happen. Of course, you could just fatigue death and lay there until a group runs by and clears the area. I've done that before. I'll go AFK, go grab myself something to eat, watch some TV. You know, if you're really desperate and you don't want to lose that experience, but keep in mind that depending on what time of the day you're playing and how busy your server is, somebody may never come for, you know, a day, 2 days, or something like that. You really don't want to be laying there that whole time, so just pick a good spot is all I'm saying. It's difficult in some zones, and some zones it's almost impossible to find a good spot to fatigue death within the range that you can run without dying. And in those situations, the best thing you can do is find a good spot to die, so that when you come back, you can actually get to your body without having to clear a whole room or something along those lines. I know you made a nice armor. So they've been getting some, as you can see, our experience is going up pretty quick. You know, even with the group over in Camp 1, they're a little low level, so it wasn't going up as quickly as it is actually over here, at a slower rate. When deciding where to go to hunt, you got to keep that in mind as well, because some zones give you a bonus experience for fighting in those zones. Often there are some camps or creatures that have a higher experience, not bonus, but they just offer more experience per kill than other creatures. And so you'll see that people will favor those areas. People know this by now. They know exactly where to go and what creatures are the best to do, either for cash or for experience or loot. That's another big deciding factor. People will go and hunt some of these slow you know, names that take forever to respawn. When I say forever, I'm talking about like 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes, you know, probably if you're going to be in a group, probably not more than 4 or 5 hours for the respawn. But if you're going to do it solo, like the Fisherman, I think that one was on like an 18-hour timer or a 16-hour timer. So people will leave a character there log them off, figure out what the timer is, log back on, and kill him again. And if he's camped, if they log back on and somebody's already there, they'll wait to see when he dies so they can start the timer again, and hopefully log back on again at the right time and get it all over again. So people will go to extremes to get really good loot in this game, because unlike in other games where the loot you get, you know, it improves your character and it gives you all these cool stats and effects and all this other stuff, the loot isn't quite as important. Like in this game, if you get an extra 1 AC on an item, that's a pretty big deal. That makes a big deal on your character's ability to take hits and block the hits and things of that sort. If you just get an extra 1 wisdom, that's a pretty big deal. In other games, I've had items that may have had like an extra 2 or even sometimes like extra 10 wisdom, but the effect was better on the other item that I had, and so I just kept it a lower level one. In this one, you really won't do that. First of all, there's not very many effects on items. That's something they added later on. And the ones that do have it usually have some kind of catch to it, like really hit hard. Like the clerics get a suit of armor that has the ability to cast some of their spells. On one of the sets, I think it might have been the pants or the breastplate. Probably the breastplate, because the breastplates are usually the best item out of a suit. That casted complete heal. Although I'm kind of leaning towards it was the pants, if I remember right. But it still took 10 seconds, or maybe it was 15 seconds to cast. The catch was that you had to have them on, and they weren't that great. They didn't have any wisdom on them. They had a decent amount of AC, if I remember right. And so you kind of had to choose, do I want the extra wisdom for better pants that you were probably already wearing at the time? Or do you go with these that have a decent amount of wisdom, but you know, there's just nothing else to go with it? And for the most part, most people chose to go with the wisdom rather than a free complete heal, simply for the fact that the extra, you know, 5, 10, 15 wisdom or mana or power, whatever you were getting off of that item, in the end was better than just, you know, a complete heal every once in a while that you could use for free. Now, in a rough situation, a lot of clerics would actually have it as a backup. They'd have it in their backpack that they could take off and put on, because you could take armor off and on during fights. You don't have to wait till the fight is over to do it, as far as I remember right. But even if you did, you just wait till the fight's over when you're out of mana. Put that on, and while you're medding up, you know, for a little bit of power, you can use that complete heal to heal up the group. You know, if they're hurt, you know, especially if you just got through with a big fight and everybody's kind of, you know, 2-3 bubbles down, you can heal people up with that free complete heal without using any of your actual reserves. Just a little trick. It's nothing that you're gonna really have to sit there and really get used to doing, but it does for those weird circumstances where, you know, you can take advantage of it. It's kind of a nice little thing to have. But I remember that they were very, very hard to get at the time. There wasn't a lot of them to go around, and the people who had them weren't really selling. I mean, you know, you can't really blame somebody for wanting to hang on to that for those weird occasions, especially if you've already gotten it. So they were a little difficult to get. And I remember the money that they were going for, I could have bought, you know, like 3 items that were far better than what I was wearing. So I ended up not getting one until really late in the game, simply because I actually got them myself. I actually went there and got them, wherever it was. I don't remember now. It's been so long. But everybody has something like that. Every class has that one set of armor that, you know, has some of their effects on it. Some of them enjoy them better than others. I think the clerics was the best, simply because of that free heal. I think some of the other guys had some weird ones, like the Necro, or not the Necro, the Shadow Knight had like gloves, and they were from the plane of, is it the plane of fear? I think it was a plane of fear. They had these gloves, these blood ember gloves that casted, I think it was fear, and then there was another one that casted dooming darkness, which is their snare. And that one was kind of nice, except for the spell was like 10 or 15 levels lower than the one I was actually using at the time. So it wasn't something I was actually willing to even use. But as a Shadow Knight, again, it was kind of nice to have in the background because as the tank, period, you know, you're not really supposed to ever sit down. The only time I really ever remember sitting down as a tank was when the healer told me he was out of mana. If he was out of mana, I wasn't leaving the room. A lot of tanks will continue to run around and check the area for repops and just kind of get a feel of what's going on out there. So when they pop out the door, you know, it's not a complete surprise. They know that, oh, okay, everything's repopped, and it's you know, it's gonna be a pretty nasty pool. I need my cleric at full power along with everybody else. But if he said he was out of power, I sat down because there was too many times where I'd be running around out there doing exactly that, just getting a feel for what the next pool is gonna look like, so I know how much power he needs. And something would spawn right on top of me. You know, if he's out of power, he's out of power. I don't want him to feel like I'm rushing him because I need experience so bad that I'm willing to put all our lives in danger, because sometimes it takes 40-50 minutes to get down to that room. So you kind of always want to side on the side of caution, simply because that the amount of time it takes for a corpse run and the amount of time it takes to get to that room and to res everybody and buff everybody and get back into the groove of things, you may waste a good hour of everybody's time doing that. He'll leave that one. So yeah, I've had quite a few times where I rush it, and I end up, you know, really messing a lot of things up. And so I've learned my lesson. I don't do that anymore. So another person I listen to very closely is the Enchanter, if you happen to have one. If he tells you he's out of power, and you know the area that you're in spawns rather quickly, or the rooms are very hard to pull because there's just multiple mobs in that area, then I'll sit down. Now, if he is in my group and I'm pulling singles and we got the area under control, we spaced everything out and everything's fine, then I'll keep pulling as long as the healer's good. But if he's essential to the area that you're in, especially if you're moving down to a room and he says he's low on power, you need to listen to him. You need to make sure that you stop, take a breath, you know, and not just the pooler. This is for anybody who's watching this and has any character, any class. You know, sometimes the pooler feels pressured into continue to pool because, you know, the cleric says he's low on power, the enchanter says he's low on power, and somebody else is like, let's just keep pooling, we can handle it. You know, if you're forcing his hand, he may continue to pool just because you're asking for it, but you know, you might pay for it in the end, and you'll learn that as well. But some people just don't pay attention to other people's classes. I know I'm pretty ignorant to enchanters, what all they actually do. I'm very intimidated by that class. Actually, I don't really want to play it for the pure reason that so much relies on your quickness. Like, I mean, with the cleric, the same thing kind of goes, but I feel comfortable doing that. It's not really a big deal to me. I've never gotten nervous playing a cleric. But watching an enchanter, especially in some of these areas where a pool goes bad, and that's when an enchanter really shines if he's any good. When a pool goes bad, you'll have like, you know, I think the max I ever saw an enchanter really handle well would be around 8. So you have 8 guys. Any one of those you would want to pool single and fight, and it would take, you know, I don't know, a minute to kill each one. Now you have 8 of those guys beating down on one person, hopefully. You know, you don't want it spread out, but hopefully it's beating down on the tank. And he has to get a handle on that. And back in the day, they didn't have a group mez. They had individual mez. And then they came out with group mezes later on. Before that, he had to sit there and target every single one of them. And if you're thinking, oh, I'll just click on it with my mouse, that's not an option for enchanters, because the creatures, if done right, will all be right on top of each other. They literally just be this giant mass. Like with orcs, it would just be like, you'd see one body of an orc, but like 15 arms moving in like different times, and you know that there's like 15 mobs right on top of them. So you really couldn't do it that way. I think you use like the tab key to scroll through the different creatures and then mez each one. Of course, they made it a little bit easier when they came out with the group mez, but then I remember that the group mez had a downside, as in it wasn't very strong. It didn't mez them for very long, and so what I remember them doing is using the group mez as a stopgap. You know, they cast it right away, mez everybody, and I think it would only last for like 4 or 5 seconds. And then they would sit there and start mezzing each one individually with their single one for the longer period. This guy's gonna hit me. And so it's just a lot of responsibility. And if you suck at it, even a little, everybody's gonna notice. It's kind of like in football, for those of you who watch that, American football, I should say. The kicker doesn't get to be used very often. But when he is used, all eyes are on him, and it's usually pretty important. Like, sometimes the entire game hinges on those points that he's going to get or not get because he's kicking. So his job is, in my opinion, very stressful. He doesn't get to go out there and redeem himself every other play because, oh, you know, you made this mistake this time, but then the next play you got to tackle and everything's forgiven. You're a good guy all over again. He may get called out once in a game. And if he doesn't perform at that one time, everybody remember he sucks. That's it. Just he sucks. What level is he? He leveled. Yeah, so we may have to actually get going here because I didn't get any experience either. So guys, if you like these videos, I'd appreciate you guys hitting the like button, subscribing, leaving comments down below. Love to hear you guys' feedback. And as always, I want to thank you for watching.